yourself, please? Great. And we are recording. So Shayna, I'd love to ask you to introduce yourself.
Can you hear me now? All
yes.
right. Greetings, everyone. My name is Shayna Shaw. I am the Executive Director of the Compound of Compassion. Yeah, that's it.
Great. And Hermine, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you so much again, guys, for the opportunity just to be here today. My name is Hermine Ngnomire, and I am the founder of the County Collectives, also doing some work as executive director for a period of time as we are in a search. We started the County Collectives really coming out of all of the protests and the work around Black Lives Matter. I started noticing, and so people that our focus is really empowerment through equity and everything that we do. And we're an organization that's youth-led. And from that standpoint, we take all of our direction from our young adults. We focus on 4 to 6 different areas in terms of well-being, affordable housing, education, and of course, the impetus being public safety. As we started to develop programming in that space, we realized, hey, we really can't do much without the arts as well as business. And so those ended up being the 6 key things that we focus on. My daughter came out probably, her junior year in high school. And taking that and all of the instances that I saw growing up in Boulder, Colorado, and being in an environment where we are definitely not the majority, but just being in an environment that was very white. It was very, actually it was a little bit more diverse as it related to orientation. But we started seeing that there was a group of people that were significantly marginalized. And we said, how do we give this youth a voice? And in so doing, can we start to transform communities in a way that are more inclusive by doing that? So that's where County Collectives was from. Thanks for allowing me a little bit longer of time.
Great. Thank you. Maybe we'll move on to you next.
Absolutely. Hi, todas, todos y todas. Hi, everyone. My name is Mimi Madrid. I am the co-founder and executive director of Fortaleza Familiar. The pronouns that I use is he makes me feel seen and sexy, she is fabulous, and they is great. My mama alternates, and I encourage you all to do so as well. I just feel so blessed to be able to support Fortaleza Familiar. We're coming up on our 2 years, and thanks to Chinook and some of the seed funding from Chinook, we were able to, begin during a really difficult time during a pandemic, or a panini, like the young people like to call it. And what we focus on really is supporting young people who identify as Latinx, Chicanx, Indigenous, and who have, multicultural identities, who are also lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, two-spirit, non-binary, and all the other beautiful identities in our communities. And the additional component is families as a organizing strategy, as a strategy of healing and well-being and, transforming our communities. A lot of times, young people are the real focus, but we also acknowledge that adults, caretakers, parents are also not only allies, but also relatives in making sure that we start to dismantle homophobia and transphobia, not just out, but also from within. And so it's really important that, our parents and our caretakers have their own space to go through their journey. But really excited to be here again and to share a little bit more about Fortaleza. Muchas gracias.
Great. Ty, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure. My name is Tai Nguyen. My pronouns are she, her, ea. My ancestors and family are from the island of Hongjia and Gakya It's in the Kiên Giang province of Vietnam, near the border of Cambodia and South Vietnam. I am the founder and executive director at Kaizen Food Rescue. My accumulated lived experiences with war atrocities, food insecurity, and learning to cope with my past traumas scaffolded and involved my healing journey, altruism, and building my passion around spaces affected by food apartheid and, food waste. And, I know what it's like being on the receiving end of government and social services as a refugee, a first-generation immigrant. And when I became a first-time mom, so this path pretty much led me to where I am today, and trying to, step into my power of utilizing my chi to be an activator, a catalyst for turning ideas into action and making things happen with everyone touched by our work. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Doesn't it feel good to be surrounded by these incredible people? Of course, I wish I could be in the same room and squeeze your hands and stuff, but I'm really happy to be here with you all. Okay, I'm gonna work backwards, and I'm gonna ask Ty the first question, and then I'd love to kind of move that question around to each of you. So I'd love to know, what do you see as your organization's unique gifts to the struggle?
Okay, so from my perspective, it's we're all traumatized people trying to survive and heal and thrive, and by osmosis, we're learning to flip the difficult situations that, into something positive and something bigger than us. And, we try to apply design thinking to our food access work around community-based power sharing. Right? So incorporating the Kaizen lean methodology that was from the manufacturing industry to what our ancestors have taught us to do for thousands of years, right? So throughout generations, they taught us to bring people together, people and everybody, and centering and sharing food. And I feel like it's the way we as humans naturally show love, right? Sharing food, sharing resources, and just sharing knowledge. And through this simple act of sharing, we're pretty much galvanizing gatekeepers to either evolve or die with us, right? So I feel we're more than just about food. We're striving towards food sovereignty. We're resurrecting what our ancestors have taught us. And it's our natural right to have healthy and culturally sensitive foods produced through sustainable methods, just as our ancestors did, right? So being able to learn from, some of the most amazing people and food justice advocates is such a blessing. And some of whom are actually in this space right now. And, they are amazing. And it's just we're all in it for the struggle and fighting against the man.
Thanks so much, Ty. And Mimi, what about Forza Latina? What are the unique gifts?
Yeah, I think for Fortaleza, honestly, our unique gifts, a lot of people are what does Fortaleza Familiar mean? And so Fortaleza means that we face adversity with courage, and familiar means that we do it together, right? And it's this ancestral wisdom, knowledge that, the ways that we not just survive, but the ways that we thrive, we love, we heal, we organize, that is a generational, it's in our DNA as people. And like Ty was saying, it's something that is being shared and taught and passed down generations. I think for a lot of times we think about our communities in such a deficit way, right? In such a, what we don't have, what resources we're needing. And the reality is that our people, we have such strength, wisdom, resilience, and also at the same time, we deserve respect, dignity, safety, wellness, clean water, housing, affordable housing, just for existing. We don't have to be extraordinaires. We don't have to, be the most brilliant I mean, we are all brilliant, but we don't have to have like the best grades and the best jobs. Like everyone in our community deserves that dignity and that health and that protection and that safety. And when it comes to LGBTQ youth, non-binary folks, two-spirit folks, I think the uniqueness or like the framework that we bring is that it's remembering that we've been on this land, in this planet, forever, time immemorial, right? We're as old as the ferns, as the water, as, you know, corn and all of those crops that bring us life and joy. We have existed in every culture and have walked the land all across this globe. And so that is the perspective that we want to remember in our cultures and our communities, right? That this idea that being queer, non-binary, or two-spirit is not a white American colonized idea, right? And so we want to make sure that we help and support our families and our community to return to that love and that protection of our young people. And in the same place, to be able to heal that intergenerational trauma that they may have, right? They might have had an uncle or an auntie or, you know, a gunkle who, you know, was part of that beautiful rainbow flag. And so I think that that's the uniqueness that we bring, you know, that we need to protect and remember where we come from and what our roots are. Gracias.
Thank you. What about you, Hermine?
Perfect, thank you. As it relates to the unique gifts that we are bringing to the struggle, I'll really focus on our young adults. These kids, and I call them kids, but they're not necessarily 18 to 29. But what I'm so inspired by every single day is I call them kind of visionaries in action. And what they do so well is they look at a problem and they come at it and say, how are we going to try to solve this a little differently than how we have in the past? So a couple of things that they did in this last year that I'm super proud of is they realized that there were some mental health challenges with their younger groups and their cohorts. And instead of saying, let's go out and find help, they started their own nonprofit, Wellness Online, and they brought together through an entire global network of universities. This was started at Chapman, small circles where they could talk about their anxieties and their challenges and their frustrations during COVID. Another thing was they wanted, you know, something for the community. They put together drive-in movies at one of the churches out here, Heart of Longmont, and they just had numerous people come in and see these movies, something for the families to do. Because you guys remember, we weren't allowed out of our house. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. So for something that, you know, weren't touching anyone. And then after the movie, they had a discussion about the themes that they saw in the movie. And they brought in a panel of like 4 to 5 people that were exciting. And the last thing that they do, this is when I want to talk about this innovation and how to really solve the problems. They stood back and said, besides public housing, they said, we want to start our own businesses. So right now, they're in the process of going through all of it and creating their own CBD lines. We've done stuff to teach them about crypto and NFTs. But my point with it, this is why I'm so excited, is that they're teaching me, they're teaching all of us, how do we do things a little bit differently? And in the process, they're learning skills that are getting them 6-figure jobs. Like I can't wait to like at some point showcase some of this. But that is like, that's the essence of it, is them pulling each other up and being resources and letters of recommendation for each other and helping each one get to that next level. So sorry, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Take it away, Shayna. You're on fire.
It's the fire. Yes, I think for me, for our organization specifically, it is the ability to allow the leaders of tomorrow to use their voice today. And so the compound of compassion has just that, our generation drive-through entity, I almost feel like they should be the ones sitting in this space right now, because they are the ones who have really given us our name and driven us forward since COVID. They're so, I don't even know where to begin. There's just so much that they have been able to do. And I think, though, the main thing that I love about our young adults today are how they reach back and they honor the knowledge of the elders and the people that are in the community that have the lived experience. So they are the ones who prepare the table for everyone to be able to sit and gain new perspective and new knowledge. They are putting together something right now called Granny's Gardens. And it's an effort to bridge the gap between the older generation and the youth, where they're going into the backyards of elders who have gardens and cultivating and creating food for our community. Over in the summer, in the middle of the pandemic, they came together. It started literally as 100 sandwiches that they wanted to take down to the coalition to feed our houseless neighbors, and it turned into a Feed the Teens event where we had over 500 people show up. They had a mobile shower unit. They had a mobile medical unit. They gave away backpacks that were full of hygiene for our houseless neighbors and a ton of food. So these are things that they sit down and see where there is a void or a lack in our community, and they try to meet that need. I also just think I love the fact that they have this inspiration, this drive to where they see each other more humanistically, instead of segregationally. And it's about, a heart connection and an energy connection. And you feel good to me and you acknowledge me. And so for that reason, we're friends. And we can come together and we can do what needs to be done for the greater good of the community. So I think that's one of the most, one of the more unique things about our organization. We're also women-led from every aspect of life, veterans, LGBTQ, all different creeds, colors, shapes. We just have different triumphs and things that we've overcome that allow us to sit in this space and be passionate about the work that we do in community.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Yeah, I feel like I'm hearing a lot about maybe like some intergenerational and like ancestral like work that's really driving your all's work, and that feels really good to hear. I'll say honestly, I think that's kind of like a newer thing that I'm seeing more and more often, that like ancestral work and intergenerational work is like having its day in the sun, and I love that. So yeah. Gosh, my next question is, a little bit funny, because it's like, it's basically like, how do you know when you're like building power and creating change? And I invite you to share like the anecdotal story to the, large numbers of impact or what have you. But yeah, just like tell us a little bit more about how you know when you're building power and creating change. Ty, can we go back to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure. So what I feel is that we're on the cusp of great change, right? And we illustrated our community organizing capacity in building collective power and creating change throughout this pandemic, no doubt, right? So as a food share collective, we, with many great volunteers, organizations, and supporters, saw like a 3,000%, over 3,000% increase of the food that we actually shared across BIPOC communities. And this happened in the height of the pandemic, 2020, the year we want to forget. But, this is only a fraction of our potential, with zero staff, we showed that we can do this. We create change, and we had our little hold my beer moment where, the county gave us $312,000 without having to write a grant. you know, that definitely sent a message. And, you know, the gatekeepers started to notice our little small grassroots organization. And, you know, a few people were resistant to us taking up space, but you know what? We're here, you know, we are the rising tide, and we're building
Yes.
power, and we're creating change just by resurrecting what our ancestors taught us to do, right? So
Yes.
community members are engaging in this joint decision-making, planning, and implementation of projects and programs to advance, you know, our collective vision that ultimately transcends organizational boundaries. And I was like, yeah, that's what's up. That's what we're doing.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that feels good. Yeah. Mimi, do you want to share a little bit about how you know you're building power, making change?
Absolutely. I think for me, building power, or how I've seen kind of this change, this culture shift happen, it's something that, you know, you mentioned, Jordan, about, you know, culture, arts, healing, organizing, conflict resolution, transformative justice, organizing. I know 10 years ago, that was not seen as organizing, right? You know, the funders and, you know, the gatekeepers definitely pushed back and saying, we're not going to put money into food. We're not going to put money into cultural events. We're not going to put money into transformative justice processes, right? Because it wasn't seen as organizing, and it wasn't respected for the power that, you know, cultural arts, community building, organizing, like that is how we actually come together and build relationships, right? We know that organizations come and go. We know that projects come and go. We know as gentrification is impacting many, many communities here that are folks of color, at the end of the day, it's the relationships that we all have with each other, right? And that really deep, profound commitment to each other's liberation across our missions, across our visions, across our identities. At the end of the day, it's that culture shift that I've seen in the 10 years, that we're not only playing identity politics anymore, right? That we're saying, no, your fight, your struggle is my fight, my struggle, right? Because when we come together, that's how we build this collective, you know, force for good. And it's not just about taking down the oppressive systems, but it's actually putting the energy, the magic, and the time into creating spaces that lift us up, right? That lift our young people up, that take care of our grandmas, our grannies, you know, that is bringing us together. And so I've had the opportunity to see that shift, and see it with Fortaleza Familiar too. I know that we're a newer organization. However, this has been work that we've been doing in community for 10, 15 years, right? Like being able to be on the phone when someone's, you know, young person is coming out or transitioning, or, you know, some parents need support, you can always pick up the phone and call, you know, that one person that you know in community. And so this is just a formalization. Fortaleza Familiar is a formal situation right now of the work that we've been doing for many, many, many years within our families, within our communities. And so that's how we build power, by staying connected and remembering that our liberation, our collective liberation, is bound to each other. I'm free when we're all free, and
That's right.
That's the vision, that's the mission. So, gracias.
Thank you so much, Mimi. I'm gonna just do a quick reminder that Spanish is about 20% longer than English. So go ahead, take your time, slow down just a little bit.
I get passionate.
And Hermine, do you want to share a little bit about how you know your organization is building power and creating change?
It's such a long-term view for us, and that's what I try to write in here. And I'm sorry, guys, my for any feedback that's going on now, but we actually, I don't have a good answer for that. Because it's so long, we can talk about some of our initial wins. And when we did the KPIs, we were really focused on metrics around how this impacts community, how many people are here, whatever. We decided, we don't really care. We really want to focus on those of us that fit into our BIPOC, traditionally more marginalized, LGBTQ, all these different aspects, and really focus on building a leader and multiple of them to then go out and design systems and programs and businesses and everything else to do great things. So I really look forward, key performance indicators, sorry about that, KPIs. I really look forward to the opportunity maybe in 5 or 10 years to come back here and have a better response. But I'm just excited by little things. We got someone today, just got a job with the Social Justice Learning Institute, one of our young adults in Inglewood. That's a win for us. That's a huge, huge win. We have, a win for us is somebody coming out of the closet and saying, I finally found a place where I belong, right? Because it's been so hard for those of us that are Black and brown sometimes. We don't find belonging in a lot of different places. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Shayna, you want to bring us home?
Oh, wow. I'm the, what's the last person in the relay race? The last person to get the baton, bring it on in. I think for us, it's real simple. We come from a place of power. I am so many different things, but I am because so many people that help create the compound are. Like, I would not be here if it weren't for so many different people of power that have overcome domestic violence, poverty, hunger, homelessness, substance misuse. There's so many different places that we come from, that we're built from, that motivates us to stand in this space. And that alone is power to just like, look, we're all right here after the last 2 years that everybody has been through. To be here in this space right now in this time, that's powerful. Like, you are power, we are power. And so in terms of creating change, you have to be that change, right? You have to be the change that you want to see. And I think that's one of the things that I applaud about our youth and young adults. Like, every single time that they have mobilized to create something, it was to create change. During the height of the pandemic, they noticed again that our seniors were not coming out to go get their medication. They weren't going grocery shopping. They were doing deliveries, food deliveries, picking up their medication. Same situation during the winter, going to the homes and shoveling and making sure that they, didn't have fall risk. Every single time there's been a mobilization, a movement for there to be something different within community, our youth and young adults have just said this is what they want. They come to Umi, to mama, and they expect a check to be written and things to happen so that they can move forward. But in that also, I think, is the beauty of being able to educate and enlighten. So they've taken courses and classes to become mental health first aid navigators, RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan navigators. They're taking a class through the 5 protective factors in Illuminate, Colorado, called Youth Thrive for Youth. And it talks about how the brain reacts and develops once it has experienced trauma. And so with that movement and education is power, and we push forward the change that we want to see in the world, and that's what we become.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you, Shayna. Yeah,
Thank you.
I just it reminds me to remind myself. You all are reminding me that building power is about building community. It's about building a group of people who are going to be there for each other and who are gonna jump when you ask them to. So yeah, absolutely.
We say we're all we got. We this is it. you know, and we have everything we need right here in this circle and in this space, right? We have the doctors, the lawyers, the bankers, the dentist, the whatever we need, we're right here. And all we have to do is just come together and manifest that and make it happen for one another. I'm sorry, did I speak out there?
No, I love it. No, this is great. Thank you. Yeah. I'm coming back around to Ty with this question because I think it's, I mean, it's incredible to hear you all share about your accomplishments. And I want to know a little bit about what sustains you in this work. It's not always roses. So tell us about what sustains you, Ty.
Oh, wow. So I think for me, being on the ground, on the front lines, hearing direct stories of our impact really fulfills me and sustains me. You know, we got a lot of good people rocking with us, increasing our frequency. And, you know, they help us vibe on a whole new level. And everyone inspires me to grow and become like this better version of little old me. And it's like, you know, guidance from my village of friends, my village of mentors, advisors, my circle of influence, basically. It's that barometer that, you know, fully sustains me to move forward and continue the work that we do as a little movement.
Thank you. Mimi, what sustains you?
Yeah, I think what sustains me is, you know, my coworker. I got to shout out my coworker, Trini Birch is on here somewhere around here, but just the conversations of how we take care of each other as two folks of color, two Indigenous people who are queer, who are non-binary, who are two-spirit, and how we are not going to replicate nonprofit industrial complex burnout, right? Like we have the beautiful opportunity and the honor to create something completely different that honors the seasons, that honors our bodies, that honors when we want to be in the brain work and when we get to be in the community work, right? And, you know, being able to have partners and community in that way of checking in with each other, right? Like Ty said, like, who's our circle of sustainers, right? Like who, like not just like monetary sustainers, but sustainers who check in on our souls, sustainers who check in on our hearts. And so I think just having that, right, of knowing we take care of each other in a good way, and building family and community. I know it's a fine line between creating family and working and doing the 9-to-5, but at the end of the day, it's like that you know, that spirit that connects us, that fire, right, that ancestral push to create a better world. Being able to connect with people like that is just phenomenal. And a lot of times it's our young people and it's our elders and it's the person next door who, you know, you never thought they would have a trans kid, or those are the moments and the stories that really sustain my love and passion for the work that we do.
Thank you, Mimi. Just going to invite folks to go ahead and drop in the chat any questions you might have for our panelists. I'll pick and choose a little bit, but Hermine, do you want to share about what sustains you?
You know, it's almost, I almost had tears with this question because there are days that are really, really hard in what it is that we're trying to do. And we're always thankful. I mean, it makes a huge day. The Chinook Fund, yay, you know, when you get over that money, because you're like, okay, how are we going to pull this off, right? And you're like a magician. There's days where you have to, and there's days that just, you know, there's a story, something happened, you're trying to defend, you're trying to advocate. And a lot of times it's a fight and you just get tired of fighting. So I would say what sustains, there's definitely those small wins, but I would say leveling up. When I can see our young adults level up into achieving whatever's next for them, there's a lot of next. When they get an aha moment, when something fundamentally changes for them, they see something different than they had seen it before. And where there may not have been much, where they finally see possibility, those are the wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Shayna, what sustains you?
That's such a loaded question for me, because I think first and foremost, it's my faith. Just the understanding of, or coming to an understanding of knowing that I was literally placed on this earth for this assignment right here. There's no plan B. There's nothing else that I'd rather be doing. There's no other place that I would rather be. And I literally have been doing this work since, the inception of self, always advocating for the underdog, the person who went and stood up for the bully in school. There's always been that drive to the bully, not for the bully, to the bully. But there's always been that drive to advocate for, social justice and for people that are at a disadvantage in some shape, form, or fashion. So I definitely think it's my faith and understanding my purpose, but I also know that it is my ancestors. It's my late wife, who passed away in 2017 of metastasize breast cancer. Our logo is the butterfly. She said she would always return to us as a butterfly whenever we saw the butterfly. And so our logo is the butterfly because it is a symbolization of metamorphosis, right? You start one way, you end up another way. And it's from the love that you receive from people in community, who root for you, who cheer you on, who believe in what you do, who thank you for showing up when nobody else would, right? It's those things that sustain you, that make you know that this work that you do every day when you get up, no matter how tired you are, no matter how broken you are, no matter how pain-ridden your body is, there's somebody out there that just needs you to stand in the gap for them. And so I think it's knowing that sustains me, is that when someone else can't, I have to. And when I can't, there'll always be somebody that will for me as well.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. I appreciate the depth of love that you brought to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have a great question here in the chat that I'm a little bit biased because I'm pretty proud of the Chinook community, but I want to know what you all think from this question from Lauren. What makes Chinook a little bit unique compared to other funders, and what are the practices and tasks that you wish? I'm gonna go ahead and popcorn whoever. Yeah, go for it, Ty.
All right. So I was part of the Giving Project as well. And what I loved and incorporated into our work was learning about the history of Colorado, right? Learning about classism, racism, and all that good stuff so that we can move forward in a more equitable manner. And having that baseline concept incorporating to how we start reading all these different grants, pulling all these different folks in to talk about and discuss and really hashing out the true change that's happening on not the short term, but just long term as well, and how they're moving in spaces, all these newer organizations. And I think is like a wonderful start for any type of foundation organizations to like move forward and take that piece and incorporate into their work.
Yeah, political education for all, not just for us.
Yeah, and it was like my first time, like my first crash course into it. I'm like, oh, we're taking this. We're gonna do this with our work. So that's what happened. Nice. And if you're wondering why we bring up, Black liberation and Indigenous sovereignty all across our work.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about what's unique about Chinook?
I can share. I had the opportunity to sit on the grant making committee when I was I don't know, 17, 18, like one of my mentors was like, go do it. And it's like Jordan and Ty have said, it's like that political education and really being able to make a framework of how are we really doing lasting change and how is it community wide. I think seeing a funder be like, well, who is on your leadership making, who is in the circle that's making leadership decisions, not just your staff, but how are young people making decisions? How are the elders making decisions? I think those are incredible questions that get to the root of systemic change that other funders right now during the DEI situation just kind of check off a box. And I think Chinook really pushes philanthropy to be about their stuff, right? Like be about it. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And I really see Chinook being kind of that, and the Giving Project, like y'all, like pushing these other huge foundations to do that cultural shift of like, nah, stop asking for so much from communities and projects that are doing the work on the ground. Like, no, like let's shift that philanthropy. And yeah, Chinook, I'm like the place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, Hermine, Shayna, you want to add anything about Chinook?
I think for me, the thing that I absolutely adore about Chinook is the freedom to show up as authentically as possible in this space. So we get the opportunity to just be here and express how we are in community in an authentic way. And there's that freedom there. I think as a grant writer, when I'm writing, for Chinook, it's liberation. It's just being able to say, this is who we are, this is what we do. And of course, I'm here as a recipient. So that being received in return is the thing that I absolutely adore, is that there's not a lot of boxes that we have to fit into in order to be, and then to have the opportunity as a grassroots a very new organization that Chinook, believes in Compound and all these other organizations enough to give us, a starting block chance to come out of, start the race and be able to show ourselves and prove ourselves to community and the rest of the city, the state, the world. We've been able to launch so many different projects through our youth, our youth entity. And that's all because of the funding that we received from Chinook, one of, if not our first funder, like the first person that gave us that opportunity. So I just am grateful for who Chinook is in community and how they show up and how they allow me to show up authentically as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do one last question and then we'll do one final question. But this one is about, this one comes from, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the person who asked it, but what are you hoping the next generation of leaders won't have to deal with in their work in 5 or 10 years? And I'm gonna go ahead and embed in that question, Mimi, there is like a, what do you think we need to be doing about the nonprofit industrial complex to prevent burnout? Kind of in there. So, but first I'm gonna toss it to Hermine for that one.
Can I talk about the nonprofit industrial?
Yeah, go for it.
In reverse.
Yeah.
I would like to see some streamlining, some simplicity, something that makes it easier for those that are the closest to doing the work day to day to getting some of the resources. I feel like a lot of the burnout, and I could be wrong with this, but comes from having to do so much with so little. And that is potentially nonprofits in a nutshell. But I'll give you a perfect example of something that I was most challenged by when starting this work. It must have been a couple years ago now. We must have had the biggest snowfall ever. And we're doing some work in Adams County, and they didn't have a homeless shelter. They had nothing there. So our young adults and some of the volunteers as well were spending 5 to 6 hours a day checking in on homeless people, trying to get them to shelter. And ultimately what we did was we raised a lot of money and got them in hotels for a week. And I sat there and went, wait a minute. Isn't this the job of some other nonprofits that are out there that are getting a lot of the funding to do this? And that's a really challenging situation. And I'd like to see that in this entire space really be addressed to, if you're working with a particular group and it's in a situation that we're going out to the people that need the help, and we're not asking them to come to us, right? We're going to where the help is, that starts to be rewarded in terms of finding help and funding. As it relates to 5 to 10 years out, I would just like to see a lot less trauma for people that I represent, that I love, that look like me, and otherwise that don't. I mean, I don't care. If that's the one thing that could break through from this, and it does start with, there are microaggressions that cause trauma. There are, and they're bigger instances too, but that is one thing I would love to see, is just not having life deliver PTSD. That's it.
Yes.
You want to say more about that, Shayna? You look like
Yeah, I'm always the yes man, right? But so, I mean, I think what, Hermine said is so true in terms of what I would like to see. Like, I just envision a world where love is the root of everything that we do in all of our movement. I care enough about myself to care enough about who you are as an individual. And as a result of that, everything I do, all of my movement, reflects that. So there's no hurt, harm, or danger brought to anyone that I encounter, because I don't want to create trauma. I don't want to create pain. And so I think that that's definitely it. And then there was another piece to the question that I missed. What was the beginning of the question again?
What are you hoping the next generation of leaders won't have to deal with in 5 to 10 years?
Yes, so the love was the part of that question for me, is just that they get to experience, and I think in a lot of ways they're creating that on their own. Like, when you look at multi-generation, what is it? Something like 64 million Americans live in a multi-generational household. What grandmother endured or even viewed as normal, and the things that she had to encounter are so different than what I've had to encounter, and what I view as normal, so different from my children, and what my daughter has had to endure or encounter. And then there's so many different things that take place in that that influence that outcome. So I think when you look at that, for me, I just envision a world where love is the root and the foundation of everything we do. And so in every encounter that we have, it's done with love and with consideration.
I love that. Thank you. Mimi, Ty, you want to add to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think just quickly, some workplace abundance and spaciousness within the nonprofit industrial complex, making our work days like four work days, including, going and, doing recreation or going on walks in community, being part of our work too, eating with each other, having more collaborative community events where we come together across organizations. So we have kind of like that capacity to work together would be great. And then I think for leaders in 10 years from now, I hope that they don't have to deal with performative nonsense anymore. I hope that in 10 years, the leaders, the young people that we're all working with, the elders, everybody, that there will be an acceleration of reparations and land back, like serious to the definition, to the point. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a little quote for you all. Author, activist, and spoken word artist Walida Imarisha says, all organizing is science fiction, because in working for change, we just must imagine a world that has never existed. Also, she says we have to collectively dream new worlds so that we can begin to create them, especially considering the moment that we're in right now. When it comes to our collective future, what do you imagine and what do you need to make it possible? I'm a little bit looking at you, Ty, but I'm also willing to say, let's let that sit for a minute. When it comes to our collective future, what do you imagine and what do you need to make it possible?
Yeah, so for sure, the opposite of this current dominant narrative, a flat hierarchy, removing imaginary lines and barriers human created is something I envision, I think one of the biggest lessons our ancestors taught us is to, go where food and water is located. And we should avoid boundaries, imaginary lines. We're going to reach to a point of no return with climate chaos. Like, what are we going to do, And we all need to migrate to where the resources are going to be accessible, right? So I think we really need to look at redesigning the whole entire food system that we're currently in. A lot of my mentors, I echo all their work, amazing work. I think, we need a shared space where water and food isn't weaponized against all life forms, right? A space where there's abundance of biodiversity, nutrient-dense foods, that's accessible to all. It's like, we really need to make it possible. And to reimagine this, I think we need to reimagine healing, right? Yes. How to navigate with all of this with humility and grace and just make change happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Who wants to jump in? When it comes to our collective future, what do you imagine and what do you need to make it possible? I'm just going to shout out nutrient-rich food. I want that. I want that for us.
Yes. I want nutrient-rich food too.
I had the luxury, or maybe it was the craziness during COVID, to get to travel to the Philippines, to Ghana, to Mexico, US Virgin Islands. And you guys have really hammered and really hit it home, this notion of community, been around a lot of poverty, and they were happy, they were healthy. There was a lot of love there. And I jokingly said that, when Christ returns, I hope he comes back to like the Philippines or Ghana, because there may be a chance for us. And of course you have to be a believer. If you're not, that's okay too. But if he comes to America, we're going to be like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, Christ. And we might also thus be in trouble. So, I'm sorry, as I look for just what we really need in the future, it's really sad, but we've almost eliminated some of the cultures and the wisdom that we really, really need right now. Yeah. And I don't know what we can continue to do, but the indigenous, the lands that we're on, the people that sometimes we look at having least in this world, when crisis hits and when things really matter, we have to go back to who are the people that kept us alive? What were the teachings and the things that really mattered during this time? What did we call the people, something workers? They were
essential.
And how valuable and valued they were at a given time. We can keep that in mind as we go through these next 5 to 10 years, that there are things that we are not valuing that we really need to look at in a different way because they're worth more than their weight in gold. That's it. Thanks.
I'm just gonna say, I think the future ancestral, it's like a connection, right? Like it's both science fiction and it's already happened, right? Like a state of liberation for all our people. We're Black, brown, queer, two-spirit, all of us come together. That already exists, right? We just have to find it. And I think at the end of the day, it's honoring what our inner children would do if we didn't have to work, right? We would be growers, we would be educators, we would be healers, we would be artists, poets, musicians, caretakers. And I think that hopefully that's what the future can bring for us, is that we can return to what our inner children and our soul and our spirit has put us on this earth to do, and not just doing a 9-to-5, doing, making money in a capitalist way, but actually like supporting and loving our community by what the core of what we were sent to this planet to do is.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah. Shayna, you want to share what you need to make the future happen?
I would love to be in a place where we don't see mothers bury their children. That's not a natural thing. For a mother to have to bury her child. I am in the city of Aurora. I'm born and raised from the city of Aurora. So the things that I've seen in terms of youth violence that has taken place has been something that has really been heavy on my heart. My son in 2019 was a victim of gun violence, and in this time that we've spent on this chat with one another, something like 316 people have been affected across our country to gun violence. And so when you think about just that as a whole, I would love to see a place, if I can envision a world, it would just be a world where again, life is valued, and it's valued in its worth more than gold, more than, the systematic bull stuff that we deem as important, like houses, cars, and money, but life in general, the longevity of it, and not having to host and hold in our women's group grief and loss for mothers who have buried their children. That would be a perfect world for me.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Seems so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can all be so simple. That's what Lauryn Hill said, but we rather make it hard.
You are speaking my language. Yeah. Well, I just really want to say thank you so much for participating in this panel and really like dreaming with us all together, and really kind of making a space for us to like be science fiction writers together and envision that future. Does anyone have a few last things they want to say before I wrap us up? Last words of wisdom to drop on us? All right, then I just want to say that being part of the Chinook community just feels really unique to me, because I feel like I'm invited to like, being a part of this community invites me to like dig deeper, take more risks, allow myself to be held. And that's really what I felt in this space together with you all. So thank you for that. I feel like it's been really a cool experience to just hear what you all have been able to accomplish with your visions too. So thank you so much. Yeah, I do want to say that if you are moved by this work that that these incredible panelists are doing, find them. They're listed in the chat too, so you can easily find them. And also consider making a gift to the Chinook Fund. We can't do this work without you all and without your support. No gift is too small, no gift is too large, but no gift is too small. When we get donations from folks that that feel like they're just like people who are like, okay, I'm like digging a little deep. I got $5 extra, I'm gonna like put it down. It just feels like a vote of confidence to us. And it makes it possible for us to support the incredible work that these people are doing. So also if you are like Ty or Mimi or myself, and you're like, I gotta get in on that like giving project thing, please reach out, find out more about it. The Giving Project is an incredible experience. It'll ask you to grow, it'll ask you to move, it'll ask you to dig deep. And you know, like after you know, there's only so much Tiger King that you could watch. You really got to get in there, and you got to do some hard stuff. So please do that. There's a bunch of info sessions on the Giving Project, so please find that. And just sharing with you all, thank you so much for wanting to come to this space and learn a little bit more about this work and be part of this movement for justice in Colorado. Yeah, and I am actually just going to ask maybe each of our panelists to finish this sentence, if you will. Entertain me, I'm totally blindsiding you. But if you could finish this sentence, my gift to you is, I'm gonna make Mimi go first because you smiled.
My gift to you is my spirit recognizing yours.
Thank you. Ty, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my gift to you is love.
I'm gonna soak that in. Shayna?
My gift to you is freedom.
My gift to you is connection to source.
Thank you all so much. I invite you in the chat to pour some love out. Give our panelists some of your love. Return it. Yes, some of the comments. Thank you also for being so vulnerable. We love hearing you speak tonight. People are saying thank you. It's inspiring. You're amazing. Everybody teared up. Oh yeah, soak in that love. Sit in it for a minute. Enjoy it. Ty says she did an ugly cry.